Welcome back. In this section of our HTML and CSS tutorial, we are diving into CSS, which is what brings our websites to life by defining how everything looks like. If you have ever wanted to style your web pages and add your own touch of creativity, CSS is where it happens. So, first of all, what is CSS? So CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheet. It's a language designed to style and lay out web pages, controlling things like colors, fonts, spaces, layout, and many more. Essentially, HTML provides the structure, and CSS handles the visual presentation, as we just explained in the previous section of our HTML. So the CSS saves a lot of work. It can control the layout of multiple web pages all at once. Second, let's learn how to link in the CSS to our HTML file. But first of all, let's create a markup code here to practice with it. Like, let's make a paragraph with the generated lore text. Here we go. Save it. And let's make a copy of this one 2 or 3 times, copy and paste under it. Linking CSS to HTML. There are 3 main ways to apply CSS. So the first way will be the inline, and the second one, the internal. And these two, we did it in the previous section of the HTML. We styled some of the elements. So, and the third one will be the external. What I mean by that, let's explain it one by one. So the inline styling here, we add styles directly to HTML elements using the style attribute, but this approach is best used. So let's practice the first one. So our paragraph here, we want to style it. So let's add the style attribute here in line with the element tag. For example, the color will be red, semicolon, save it. And here we go. Our first paragraph now, it's been styled with the first way of the styling CSS, which is the inline CSS. So the second one, internal CSS, is added within a style tag in the head section. So here in the head section, not in the body or the elements. So this is useful for styling a single page. If we have, for example, just a one single page, you can apply the style here without any issue. Let's practice our internal styling here with the header here. So let's style our H1. Between the tags styled, opening and the closing tag here, we can specify our H1 element, and and here we can apply like color will be, let's make it green, for example. And there we go. Our header here is being applied with the green color. And the third one is the most recommended method, especially for larger projects, is external CSS. So external CSS, we create a separate .css file and link it in the head section with the link tag. This keeps our HTML and CSS separate and more manageable. So let's do it here and create our file here called like .css or whatever you want, but the .css, this one, it's must. But here you can just specify it whatever you want. The most developers naming this one will be like the script. Save it, and here we go. And we have our external CSS file. Let's link it with our HTML here. We can do it in the head section with the link tag. In our head here, let's link it. Link. Here we go. The style sheet, and with the attribute of the href here, we have to add the script.css here. And here we go. Now let's apply some styles to our background of the body here element, to this one. Let's go here, and for the body, let's make, for example, the background color will be, let's make it like an aqua color or light blue with background light blue. This one is better. Here we go. So now let's talk about the CSS syntax basics. So here, this is how we can write our CSS syntax. CSS syntax, it contains the three parts. So we have the selector, like the body here is the selector, and we have the property, this property, and we have also the value of the property will be this one. So the selector targets the HTML element that we want to style. Like for example, in our case is the body or the P or the span or whatever HTML element that you wanted to style. So you can target here with the opening and the closing curly braces here, and inside it you can specify your property and the value. A property is the aspect of the element we want to style, so like the color or the background here in our case, and the value is specified the style we apply, like here in our case the light blue. So the CSS selectors are used to find or select the HTML elements you want to style. So what we just did, just one of the CSS selectors, which is the selecting by the elements. You can divide the CSS selectors into 5 categories. The first one will be a simple selectors. Select element based on a name or ID or a class. And the second one will be combinator selectors, like selecting elements based on a specific relationship between them. So the third one will be pseudo class selectors, select element based on a certain state. And the fourth one will be pseudo element selectors, select and style a part of an element. And the fifth one will be the attribute selectors. So this one will be selecting elements based on an attribute or an attribute value. So the CSS element selector, what we just did here, like the element, we specify the element that we want to style, and based on it, we can apply a certain style. Like here, the color, background, the color. And we have also the CSS ID selector. So the ID selector uses the ID attribute of an HTML element to select a specific element. For example, in our case, the third paragraph here, that we want to give it a special styling. So the ID of the element is unique within the page. So the ID selectors is used to select one unique element. Like in our case here, our third paragraph. So let's make here like an attribute called ID here, and give it like, let's make it P here, third P, save it and go to our styling file here and specify, we can select an element with the specific ID by writing the hash and followed by the ID name of the element that we just did before, and which is the third P. And between the opening and the closing curly braces here, we can apply our property and the value that we want to do. And in our case, we want like the color, let's make it, for example, white. Save it, and here we go. Our color now here on the third paragraph will be white. Let's make another for the background, like a black. Save it, and here we go. So this is how we can style with the ID selector. And we have another one, which is the CSS class selector. So the CSS class selector selects an HTML elements with the specific class attribute. To select elements with the specific class, we write a period. But before that, let's get rid of this one and give a class text. And like this element also that we want to be like a class with the same name of the class, text, and save it. So let's go to our CSS file here. So to select elements with a specific class, we write a period. With the ID selector, we write the hash, and with the class selector, we write a period followed by the class name. In our case, which is the text. Let's apply some style here. Let's make the background, for example, here to be tomato. So, and we have another also CSS selector called the universal. So the universal selector select all HTML elements on the page. And usually we do it in the beginning here with the star and followed with the curly braces, opening the closing tag, and between it we can do like the styling that we want. Like for example, in our case, let's make the font size, let's make it 20 pixel. See, it's applied for all of the elements inside our HTML file. And there are also many CSS selectors. So that's it. And if you are curious about other CSS selectors, you can just check the NDN documentation. I will provide it in the description. So next, let's learn about the CSS commands. So for the CSS commands, are used to explain the code and help when you edit the source code at a later date. So commands are ignored by browsers. So CSS commands is placed inside the style elements and starts with the /* and ends with the */. For the commands can also be like a span multiple lines. If you want to comment our styling here, the ID and the text, multiple style, let's do here the / and the comma, the start, and ends with the * and the /. Save it, and now it's been commented out. And another option also, we can like just commenting inside just a one line, like this one, comment and save, and here we go. The color of our ID, it's gone. Let's make it back, and here we go. So that's it. And next, let's learn about the CSS backgrounds, borders, margin, padding, and many more. Thank you for watching, and be sure to subscribe and leave the thumbs up or any question if you have in the comment section. Thank you.